Yoon was a scientist from planet Zircon. Her job was to study life forms from other worlds. For the past month, she had been studying Earth plants. She worked in a special lab on the alien ship that orbited Earth. "Are you ready for today's tests?" asked Jun, her research partner. Jun was taller than Yoon, with light blue scales and 6 fingers on each hand. Like all the aliens from Zircon, they both had 4 eyes, 2 large ones and 2 small ones. "Yes," said Yoon. "The human scientists are bringing more plant samples today. We'll test how they affect the air." Jun checked the safety seals on the lab door. The room was built to keep the Earth air and plants contained. Both Yoon and Jun wore thin masks that protected them from the high oxygen levels that humans needed to breathe. "I still can't believe humans live with these organisms everywhere," said Jun. "On our world, we have very few plants, and no one goes near them without protection." Yoon nodded. "That's why studying Earth and humans is so important. They live with dangers all around them, yet they thrive." The lab door opened, and Song entered. Song was the head scientist for the alien research team. Behind her came 2 human scientists, Bin and Hyun. They carried clear boxes with different plants inside. "Good morning," said Bin with a smile. "We brought the samples you asked for. This one is called a peace lily." He pointed to a plant with dark green leaves and white flowers. "This one is a snake plant, and this one is aloe vera, the aliens." Looked at the plants with a mix of fear and interest. "Thank you," said Yoon. "We'll start testing them right away." The humans put the plants on a special table. Then they helped set up the testing equipment. Humans and aliens had been working together for weeks now, learning from each other. "I have a question," said Jun to the humans. "Why do you keep these plants in your homes? Aren't you afraid they will harm you?" Hyun looked surprised. "Harm us? No. These plants are helpful to humans. They clean our air by taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen. Some can even remove toxins from the air." "But oxygen is dangerous to many species," said Song. "Not to us," said Bin. "We need oxygen to live. Our bodies use it to make energy. Without oxygen, we would die in minutes." The aliens looked at each other. This was still hard for them to understand. What was deadly poison to them was life-giving. Air to humans. "Let's start the tests," said Yoon. For the next few hours, they ran many tests on the plants. They measured how much oxygen each plant made. They tested the soil the plants grew in. They even took small pieces of leaves to look at under powerful microscopes. Jun was studying the peace lily when she made an interesting discovery. "Look at this," she called to the others. "This plant is taking in the carbon dioxide we breathe out and making oxygen." Yoon came over to look. "You're right. It's happening right now in real time. The plant is changing the air around it." "That's what we've been trying to tell you," said Hyun with a laugh. "Plants and humans have a special relationship. We help each other live." Song was looking at data on a screen. According to these readings, having just a few plants in a room can change the air quality significantly. No wonder humans keep them in their homes. But there was something else that confused the aliens. Bin noticed their puzzled looks. "You're wondering about something else, aren't you?" he asked. Yoon nodded. "Yes. Why do humans care so much about how plants look?" The human female we visited, Han, had many plants that she said were just for beauty. "What does that mean?" Bindu thought for a moment. "Humans don't just keep plants because they're useful. We also find them beautiful to look at. They make us feel good." "Feel good?" asked Jun. "How can a plant make you feel emotions?" "It's hard to explain," said Hyun. "But being around plants can make humans feel calm and happy. Some studies show that having plants around can reduce stress and improve mental health." The aliens were shocked. These dangerous life forms actually helped humans' minds. This was new information. "We need to study this more," said Song. "The connection between humans and plants is more complex than we thought." As they continued working, Bin showed them pictures on a device. "Look at these. These are some gardens from around Earth." The images showed large areas full of different plants. Some were neat and organized. Others looked wild and free. All had humans walking among the plants, touching them, and looking happy. Humans create these spaces on purpose? Asked Yoon. Yes, said Bin. We've been making gardens for thousands of years. Almost every human culture has some tradition of growing plants for food, medicine, or beauty. Song was typing notes quickly. So humans have been shaping their relationship with plants for their entire history. Exactly, said Hyun. We've been breeding plants to be more useful or more beautiful for thousands of years. That's why we have so many different types now. June was looking at a device that showed data about Earth. According to this, there are more than 390,000 different plant species on Earth. On our planet, we have less than 500. And humans know about all these plants? Asked Yoon. Not all of them, said Bin. We discover new ones every year, but we've studied and named most of them. The alien scientists were amazed. Humans had not just survived on their dangerous planet. They had learned about all its life forms. They had formed relationships with plants that helped both species thrive. Later that day, after the humans had left, Yoon, June, and Song met to discuss what they had learned. I think we need to change how we think about humans, said Yoon. We've been seeing them as tough creatures who survive despite their harsh world. But that's not right. What do you mean? Asked June. Humans don't just survive on Earth. They are part of Earth. They belong there. They have shaped their world and their world has shaped them. Song nodded slowly. Yes, I see what you mean. The plants aren't enemies to humans. They're partners. Partners, repeated June. That's a new way to think about it. Yoon looked at the peace lily still sitting on the table. Think about it. On our world, we try to control nature. We live apart from it. But humans live with nature. They bring it into their homes. They care for it. And that might be why they're so different from us, said Song. They don't see their world as a death world. They see it as home. The three scientists looked at the plant. It sat quietly in its pot, its white flowers glowing under the lab lights. To the aliens, it was still strange and a little frightening, but now they understood a bit more about why humans love these green life forms. I have an idea, said Yoon suddenly. Let's create a special room on our ship, just for Earth plants. We can study them more closely, and maybe we can learn to appreciate them the way humans do. That's a big step, said Song. Are you sure? Yoon thought about the human child who had offered her a plant to touch. She thought about Han, who talked to her plants every day. She thought about all the ways humans and plants helped each other. Yes, she said firmly. If we want to understand humans, we need to understand their relationship with plants. And the only way to do that is to start our own relationship with them. Jun looked worried but also curious. I guess we'll need to get used to more oxygen in that room. And learn how to water them, added Song. And maybe, said Yoon with a small smile, learn how to talk to them too. The big room where aliens from all over the galaxy met fell quiet. All eyes turned to watch Ambassador Tai-Ho Kim. He stood in the middle of the round chamber. Though he was shorter than most aliens there, he looked confident. The human wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's symbol on the chest. Thank you for meeting today, said Tai-Ho in a clear voice that reached every corner of the room. Earth has an important announcement. He pressed a button on the small device he held. A huge 3D image appeared in the air above him. It showed a massive ship floating in space. The aliens in the room gasped. Some stood up from their seats. Others whispered to each other with worried faces. The ship in the image was huge, almost 7 kilometers long. It had a shape like an arrow with a wide back section and a pointed front. Along its sides were what looked like gun ports and missile tubes. This is Project Aegis, said Tai-Ho with pride. The biggest ship humans have ever built. We start construction next month. Admiral Jisung jumped to his feet. He was from the Vesperian people, a race of tall aliens with see-through skin that showed the blue blood moving inside them. The admiral's skin pulsed faster as he got angry. This breaks our laws, shouted Jisung, pointing a long finger at Tai-Ho. The treaty says no military ship can be more than 3 kilometers long. That ship is more than twice that size. Murmurs of agreement filled the room. The treaty had been signed 50 years ago, when humans first joined the Galactic Council. All races had to follow the same rules about weapons and ships. Taiho didn't seem worried. He smiled politely at Jisung. "Admiral, you need to read the treaty more carefully," he said. Section 47, paragraph 12 says civilian ships can be any size. The Aegis is a civilian ship. Civilian? Jisung's voice was loud with disbelief. "Anyone can see those are weapon ports all over it." A woman stepped forward to stand next to Taiho. She was older, with gray in her black hair and lines on her face from years of hard work. She wore a simple gray uniform with many pockets. "I am Director Nari Park," she said. "I am the chief engineer for Project Aegis. What you see are not weapon ports. They are defense systems to protect the ship from space rocks and debris." "That many?" asked a small green alien from the front row. "Space is dangerous," replied Nari with a shrug. "Better safe than sorry." Admiral Jisung's skin was now pulsing very fast, showing his anger. "And these?" he asked, pointing to large tubes on the bottom of the ship image. "Launch bays for exploration vehicles," said Nari. "The Aegis is an exploration and colony ship. It will carry 50,000 people to new star systems." The room filled with loud voices as aliens argued. Some believed the humans, others did not. Taiho and Nari stood calmly in the middle of the noise. A tall alien with 4 arms raised them all for quiet. This was Head Counselor Zex, the leader of the Galactic Council. "Ambassador Kim," said Zex in a deep voice, "while your ship may technically follow our rules, you must understand our concerns. This ship could easily be turned into a weapon." Taiho nodded. "We understand your worry. That's why we invite council inspectors to watch the building of the Aegis. You can see for yourselves that we follow all rules." This offer surprised the aliens. They had not expected humans to be so open. Admiral Jisung was still not happy. "I will personally lead the inspection team," he said. "We will watch every step." "We welcome you, Admiral," said Taiho with a small bow. After the meeting, Taiho and Nari walked down the long hallway away from the council chamber. Their footsteps echoed on the shiny floor. Large windows showed the beautiful alien city outside, with tall towers that seemed to float in the air. "That went as expected," said Taiho quietly. Nari nodded. "They suspect but can't prove anything." "Will the inspection be a problem?" asked Taiho. "No," said Nari with a small smile. "We planned for this. Everything they'll see will match what we said. The special features will remain hidden until the right time." They stopped at a window and looked out at the stars visible in the daytime sky of this alien world. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" asked Nari. "Keeping secrets from the council?" Taiho's face became serious. "The council has been around for thousands of years. They talk and debate while dangers grow. Earth can't wait for them to decide to act. Not with what our deep space scanners detected." "They still think it was just a sensor error," said Nari. "And by the time they realize it wasn't, it might be too late," said Taiho. "No. We build the Aegis as planned. Humanity needs to be ready." "And if they find out what the Aegis really is?" asked Nari. "By then it will be too late to stop us," said Taiho, watching a ship rise into the alien sky. "And they might thank us when the time comes." As they walked toward their Earth ship that would take them home, both humans carried the weight of their secret. The Aegis was far more than a colony ship. It was humanity's answer to a threat the aliens refused to see coming. And they would build it no matter what the Galactic Council thought. Construction would begin in 1 month. The clock was ticking. The Earth's moon looked different now. A huge area on the dark side had been changed. Bright lights shone from the surface. Thousands of small ships moved back and forth like busy bees around a giant metal frame. This was the start of the Aegis Junho. Lee floated in his spacesuit near the middle of the giant ship frame. His boots were locked onto a metal beam to keep him from drifting away. From here, he could see both ends of the construction site. The Aegis would be the biggest thing humans had ever built in space. "It's coming along well," said a voice in his helmet. Junho turned to see Subin float up next to him. She was his second in command. the person who helped him run the huge project. Her spacesuit had blue stripes on the arm showing her rank. "Yes, we're 3 days ahead of schedule," said Junho. He pointed to the front of the ship. "Sections 17 through 42 are already done. The main frame is taking shape nicely." They both looked at the work happening all around them. Robot arms welded huge metal plates together. Small worker ships carried big parts from one area to another. People in spacesuits moved carefully between the beams, checking the work. "And our visitors?" asked Junho. Subin pointed to 3 shiny ships floating in space far from the construction site but still close enough to watch. "The aliens arrived yesterday," she said. "Those 3 ships are from the Galactic Council. They're scanning us all the time." Junho nodded. "Let them watch. We're doing exactly what we told them we would do. On the outside, yes," said Subin with a smile behind her helmet glass. They pushed off from the beam and used their suit jets to move toward a large opening. Inside was a huge empty space that would one day be filled with the ship's engines. "The outer hull sections look like normal ship parts," said Junho as they moved inside. "But each panel has the special materials built in, just like we planned." "Hidden in plain sight," said Subin. "Director Park was smart to design it this way." They reached a control room built into the frame. Inside, they took off their helmets. The room was full of screens showing different parts of the construction. "Admiral, Jisung asks questions every day," said Subin. "He's suspicious." "Of course he is," replied Junho. "But everything he can see matches what we said at the council meeting. This is a colony ship with defense systems, nothing more." One of the screens showed the alien ships. Inside one of them, Admiral Jisung was watching the humans with his 4 eyes. His see-through skin pulsed with blue blood. "They're installing what look like missile tubes along the bottom of the ship," said his sensor officer, pointing at a screen. "They call them launch tubes for exploration drones," said Jisung, making air quotes with his long fingers. "How stupid do they think we are?" "Sir, the design does match what they showed us," said another alien, "and their workers are doing exactly what their plans say they will do." Jisung made an angry sound. "These humans are clever. They show us one thing but build another. I know they're making a warship, but I can't prove it." A light flashed on. His control panel. "Sir, we're getting a call from Earth." The screen changed to show Director Nari Park. She smiled at the Admiral. "Admiral Jisung, I hope you're finding your observation duties informative," she said. "The United Earth Federation would like to invite you to tour our construction facility. We want to be open with you and address any concerns you might have about the Aegis project." Jisung's skin pulse slowed as he thought. Was this a trap? Or a chance to learn more? "I accept your invitation, Director Park," he said finally. "My team and I will come tomorrow." "Excellent," said Nari. "We look forward to showing you our work." When the call ended, Jisung turned to his officers. "Prepare for close inspection," he ordered. "I want to find anything that proves they're breaking the treaty." Back on the construction site, Junho and Subin met with other project leaders in a large meeting room. The walls were covered with plans and diagrams of the Aegis. "Admiral Jisung has accepted our invitation," said Nari's voice from a screen. "He will tour the site tomorrow." "Are we ready for this?" asked Subin. Junho nodded. "We've been practicing for months. Every worker knows what to say. Every part has its official civilian purpose." "And what about Section 42B?" asked another engineer. "The quantum field generators are clearly military tech. We've relabeled them as deep space navigation systems," said Junho. "And the special compartments are sealed for radiation safety." Nari spoke again from the screen. "Remember, we need to complete Phase 1 before they figure out what we're really building. Once the main systems are in place, it won't matter if they know. It will be too late to stop us." Everyone in the room nodded. They were all part of the secret, a secret that might one day save Earth. As the meeting ended, Junho stayed behind, looking at a large image of the completed Aegis. When done, it would be the most powerful ship ever built by human hands. Not just a colony ship, not just a Battlestar. It would be humanity's best hope against what was coming from deep space. the thing the aliens refused to believe in, the threat that only Earth's long-range scanners had detected. Junho touched the image with his finger. "We'll be ready," he whispered. "Whatever you are, we'll be ready when you come." The construction of the Aegis continued day and night. The clock was ticking, and there was no time to waste. Admiral Jisung had never felt so small. He stood in a huge room inside the half-built Aegis. The ceiling was so high he could barely see it. Giant machines moved around him, carrying parts bigger than his ship. Humans in work clothes walked by, some nodding politely to the alien visitors. "This is the main launch bay," said Director Nari Park. She walked confidently ahead of the group of aliens. "From here, our exploration vehicles will leave the ship to study new planets." Jisung looked at the massive room. It could hold hundreds of ships. The walls had rows of what looked like weapon mounts. "And these?" he asked, pointing to one of the mounts. "Magnetic clamps," said Nari without hesitation. "They hold the exploration vehicles in place during travel." Jisung's skin rippled with doubt. The magnetic clamps looked exactly like the anti-ship cannon mounts he had on his own battleship. The tour had been going for 3 hours. Every question Jisung asked got a quick, clear answer. Every suspicious part had a civilian explanation. The humans were either telling the truth, or they were very well-prepared liars. "Next, we'll see the central control systems," said Nari, leading them to a large elevator. They went up many floors. When the doors opened, they entered a round room filled with screens and control panels. People worked at different stations, monitoring the construction. "This will be the main bridge," explained Nari. "From here, the ship's captain will direct our exploration missions." "It looks like a military command center," said Jisung, looking at the layout. Nari smiled. "Efficient design is efficient design, Admiral. Whether for war or peace, some layouts just work better." A man approached the group. He wore simple clothes with many tools hanging from his belt. Unlike Nari's smooth, diplomatic manner, he seemed more direct and practical. "Director Park, we've solved the power problem," he said, holding up a strange device. "The modified quantum field generators can now channel 400% more power than we first designed." Jisung's translator had trouble with the technical words, but he understood enough. The humans had made something 4 times more powerful than before. "Thank you, Chief Engineer Minho," said Nari quickly. "That's excellent news for our deep space navigation systems." The engineer nodded and walked away, still looking at the device in his hands. 400% more power?" asked Jisung. "That seems excessive for navigation." "Deep space has many dangers, Admiral," replied Nari smoothly. "We need strong systems to protect our colonists." The tour continued through more areas of the ship. They saw living quarters that could hold thousands of people. They saw farm areas where food would grow during long journeys. They saw medical facilities and schools for children. Everything matched what the humans had said. This was a colony ship. Yet Jisung couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something important. Near the end of the tour, they came to a long room filled with what looked like missile tubes. Each tube was big enough for a small ship to fit inside. "And these are?" asked Jisung, already knowing the answer he would get. "Deployment systems for our autonomous stellar cartography probes," said Nari. "Each can map an entire star system in under a month." "Why do they need such heavy armor?" asked Jisung, knocking on the metal of one tube. "And guidance systems that look exactly like your military-grade missiles?" Nari's smile never wavered. "Space is dangerous, Admiral. Our probes must withstand small rocks hitting them, radiation, and many other dangers." Later, when the main tour was over, Jisung stood on an observation deck with Earth's Defense Minister Ji-woo. They looked out at the stars through a large window. Construction continued around them, lights flashing as welding robots worked on the outer hull. "We both know what you're really building," said Jisung quietly. "Why continue this act?" Ji-woo looked at the stars for a long time before answering. "The Galactic Council has existed for thousands of years, Admiral. In that time, how many new species have you seen destroyed by threats from deep space?" "Several," admitted Jisung. "But that's why the Council exists, to protect everyone together." Protection that comes too late for many, said Jiwoo softly. Humanity will not be among them. What are you afraid of? Asked Jisung. There are no threats in this part of the galaxy that the Council doesn't know about. Jiwoo turned to look at the alien admiral. Are you certain? Before Jisung could answer, his communicator beeped. Excuse me, he said, stepping away to answer. It was his science officer from his ship. Admiral, we've been analyzing the human construction materials, said the officer. They're using something very strange in the outer hull. Strange how? Asked Jisung. It looks like normal metal on our scans, but when we run deeper analysis, we see it has special properties. It can absorb energy and then release it in controlled ways. It's like nothing in our database. Jisung ended the call and rejoined Minister Jiwoo. You've developed new materials for this ship, he said. Materials our sensors can barely understand. Jiwoo nodded. Human ingenuity, Admiral. It's what we're known for. We'd take what we learn from the galaxy and make it better. The Council will want to know about this, said Jisung. I'm sure they will, replied Jiwoo. But by then the Aegis will be complete, and when the time comes you'll be glad we built it. As Jisung and his team prepared to leave, Engineer Minho approached him one last time. Unlike the others, Minho seemed less interested in diplomacy. You think we're building a weapon, said Minho bluntly. Jisung's skin pulsed with surprise at the direct statement. Aren't you? Minho looked around to make sure no one was listening. Admiral, sometimes the best defense is a strong offense. Remember that when they come. When who comes? Asked Jisung, but Minho had already walked away, leaving the Admiral with more questions than answers. As his shuttle left the construction site, Jisung looked back at the massive shape of the Aegis. Humans were so young compared to the other races in the galaxy. Barely 200 years since they joined the Galactic Council. Yet in that short time they had learned, adapted, and now were building something beyond what the older races could imagine. It was impressive. And terrifying. Set course back to Council space, he ordered his pilot. I need to make my report. Behind, them work on the Aegis continued day and night. The humans knew something they weren't sharing, and they were racing against time to be ready for it. 6 months later, the Aegis was complete, at least externally. Inside, thousands of technicians and engineers continued to bring systems online, but the massive vessel had reached the stage where testing could begin. Captain Hana Kim stood on the bridge, surveying her domain with quiet pride. At 35, she was relatively young to command such an important vessel, but her record in both the military and scientific exploration was unmatched. All departments report ready for initial power-up sequence, announced her executive officer. Commander Jin Young, proceed, Hana ordered. Throughout the ship, systems hummed to life. Energy coursed through conduits designed by humanity's brightest minds, incorporating both Earth technology and carefully adapted alien concepts. In orbit around Jupiter, the Galactic Council observation fleet had grown to 15 vessels. Representatives from nearly every major species had arrived to witness what the humans were planning. They're activating their main power systems, reported a technician aboard the Council flagship. The senior representative, a Loriaxian named Jokel, leaned forward. Weapon status? Still offline, but their energy readings are, Sir, these can't be correct. On the Aegis, Captain Hana received similar reports of disbelief. Main reactor output exceeding projected levels by 22%. Minho reported with undisguised glee. The modified containment fields are holding perfectly. Proceed to Phase 2, Hana commanded. Outside, massive panels began to slide away from what appeared to be simple hull sections, revealing arrays of solar collectors that extended like petals from a flower, spanning hundreds of meters in each direction. What are they doing? Demanded Jokel. His question was answered moments later when the arrays began to glow with accumulated energy. The Aegis itself seemed to shimmer as field generators created a protective bubble around the entire vessel. Sir, they've activated some kind of defensive shield, reported the technician. Our scans can barely penetrate it. Aboard the Aegis, the bridge crew watched their monitors with satisfaction as test results poured in. Shield strength at 87%. Of theoretical maximum, reported the defensive systems officer. That's well above minimum requirements. Hana nodded. Prepare for propulsion test. The warning went out to all vessels in the system. The Aegis would be conducting engine tests. The recommended safe distance was 1 million kilometers. When the massive engines ignited even at a mere 5% capacity, the observers were stunned. The Aegis moved with a grace that belied its enormous size, accelerating smoothly as it changed position in space. Impossible, whispered Zokel. A vessel that size shouldn't maneuver like a cruiser. 3 days later, an emergency session of the Galactic Council was convened. The chamber was filled beyond capacity, as representatives demanded answers about the human vessel that clearly violated the spirit, if not the letter, of numerous treaties. Ambassador Taeho Kim stood calmly in the center of the storm, waiting for the furor to die down. When it finally did, he activated a holographic display showing the completed Aegis in all its glory. Honored representatives, he began, for months you have watched with suspicion as humanity constructed what you believe to be a warship in disguise. Today, I will tell you the truth. The chamber fell silent. The Aegis is indeed a Battlestar, the first of 12 planned vessels, but not for use against any species represented here. The hologram changed, showing astronomical data and long-range sensor readings from beyond the galaxy's edge. 3 years ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected these anomalies. We shared this data with the Council Science Directorate, who dismissed it as instrument error. The gathered aliens studied the readings with growing concern. It was not error, Taeho continued gravely. Something is coming, a threat unlike any the galaxy has faced in recorded history. Our models predict first contact within 7 years. Admiral Ji-sung rose from his seat. If this is true, why build these vessels in secret? Why the deception? It was Defense Minister Ji-woo who answered. Because the Council would have debated for decades while the threat grew closer. Humanity is young compared to most of you, but we understand existential danger. We chose action over deliberation. Captain Hana stepped forward. The Aegis is not just a defensive platform. Its primary mission is deep reconnaissance beyond the galactic barrier, to gather intelligence on what approaches. Its secondary mission is to serve as a testbed for technologies that will be needed when the threat arrives. The council chamber erupted again, but this time with questions rather than accusations. Hours later, as the emergency session continued, Ambassador Taeho and Captain Hana stood in a quiet antechamber. They're coming around, Taeho observed. The Vesperians have already offered to contribute their phase cannon technology to the next Battlestar, Hana nodded. And the Loriaxians their sensor arrays. Was it worth it? The deception? Hana looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's viewport. Ask me in 7 years, when we face whatever's coming. Behind them, the hologram continued, to display the Aegis, humanity's first Battlestar and perhaps the galaxy's best hope for survival.